Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Daily Grind. I'm your host, Mark. That is not Luke, as usual now. These days, it seems like I said that a lot these days, that's not Luke. Daniel from Grizzlies 101 joining me on this show today. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Luke is healthy. I talked to him
He is
yesterday.
healthy. I did
And
too. Yeah, I
so
did too.
who knew that he went to the hospital? I didn't know that.
He
So,
told me only because he does a show with me. And
right.
the night before we did a show, he was like, "Hey, I can't do the show. I'm in the hospital." I'm like, "Dude, please don't worry about the show." Like,
Yeah.
I do not care about the show, but he is better. I spoke to him yesterday too. He is better. He was like, "I'll be back Friday." I was like, "No, please don't come back to the show. Please just take the weekend, get really, feel better. Take the weekend, get better, and let's talk on Monday." And even then, it's okay. I can just keep doing the show by myself or with Daniel. I'm fine with that. So,
No, he's
um,
much better. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. We're talking about Dillon Brooks returning, which is
mm,
awesome.
yes,
Um,
yes.
I am a notorious Dillon hater, but I'm excited to see what the fans do. I know we're going to talk about that today, but I'm excited to see what the fans do tonight. He is
Mhm.
supposed to get some kind of video for him.
I would
So,
assume so. I would assume
yeah,
nothing, honestly. I mean, the video team over there, I know those guys quite well because of my profession.
right.
But they're great, great dudes and extremely talented. So I would expect nothing less. I expect them to get a tribute video. So yeah, we'll talk about Dillon Brooks in the second segment, as you see on the rundown. We'll talk about the countdown to John Morant because it is here. The John Morant returning is coming fast and furious. We'll talk about it in the third segment, but let's start with the Grizzlies versus the Rockets tonight. The Grizzlies lost to the Rockets in Houston on Wednesday. They come back tonight to take on the Grizzlies tonight in Memphis. The thoughts on your game? I mean, I will say this: if Jake LaRavia plays, well, I have to call Nathan and talk to him and tell him please come back because after that show Wednesday, I don't know. He might quit on the spot tonight. He might come up to the show. You'll introduce him and he's like, I'm done here. I'm
Yeah.
quitting.
Well, he
I'm
was
gonna have to.
drinking from the bottle the first time, which is awesome. Awesome content generator that dude is. But the fact that he is just a complete hater of Jake, that if he does play, I'm nervous as well because it's the whole show will turn into that. But if
Yeah,
Jake plays just in general for the Grizzlies and for the fans, it's not going to be good. Like, he is not good,
yeah,
and I
he's
think we're
not.
seeing that.
Well, it's going to start tonight with Desmond Bain. I almost said Dillon Brooks. It's going to start tonight with Desmond Bain, and if he plays, he is questionable on the injury
Yeah.
reports coming up tonight. So that's just a matter of if they've given him enough fluids and to get whatever he had out of his system. That's really what that boils down to: is does he feel good enough to play? And so
Right.
I will be curious to see if he plays. Just like we talked about on Wednesday, I think we all kind of collectively talked about this on Twitter before the game. If he doesn't play, I mean, it's a hard game to win, no matter who you're playing. And I would go far as to say that any team in this league, if you're missing four of your your best guards and two of your best center or two of your best front court players, that you're probably not going to win very many games.
Yeah.
And shout out to Jaren for even making it a possibility. But if Desmond doesn't play, it's going to make it very difficult to win this game. And I think it starts right there with him, if whether he's available or not.
Yeah. I don't know what he has. I know I called it the bubble guts Bane, and that's kind of what, I just termed it as. I don't know if it's flu-like symptoms or what, but like you said, it's you got to get in, like, the fluids pumping in you. And if I would imagine Bane's playing, unless he's like literally like Luke and going into the hospital, Bane is playing. Like, that is just the
Yeah.
truth. I think he plays tonight, especially Dillon's return. You can't miss both. You can't miss a Dillon game and a Dillon return to the grindhouse. Like, come on, no way.
If I had to guess, I think he's going to play too. That would be my guesstimation is that he plays. And if he plays, and hopefully if he goes and he's 75% of or 50% of Dillon Brooks is better than like 100% of John Contra and Jake LaRavia. So like that's fine with me.
You keep saying Dillon Brooks, just so we're on the same page. We want a 50% out of Dillon. That's fine.
Yes,
We just
we
need
want 50% out of Dillon Brooks. Yes.
50% out of Dez too.
Yeah. I was probably on the fence with Dillon Brooks. I was, a Dillon Brooks fan sometimes. We'll talk about him in the second segment. But I digress. This Rockets team is no joke on the defense. The best defense in the league. what do the Grizzlies do you think need to do differently on Friday tonight than they did Wednesday? Obviously, I think starting, let's not get down by 20. That's like numero uno. I feel like that's the best bet, and that's the best advice I could give them is not get down by 20. But what do you think? What do you think they need to do differently to win this ball game?
So the Grizzlies shot 38 3-pointers last game. That was not ideal. They only took 82 total shots, which is a super low for them just in general.
Yeah.
I think that like moving that 82 up, keeping the 38 3-pointers, I think that's actually fine if you're getting 95 plus on shot attempts. That means they need to somehow get into the lane. This team is the best when they're in the lane, and they have not been doing that. And I don't know why. If you look at these role players, they look timid, and that can't be, especially right now. Like when Ja comes back, if you want to be timid because you have Ja, Dez, Jaren that you can pass to, potentially Smart, I get it. You know what? Don't take the shot. But if literally 2 of those 4 are missing, be more aggressive. And I think that they get into the paint. You go at Alperen Sengun, who isn't that big. I know he's a good ball player, but he's not big. I think you can get to the front of the rim.
Yeah, I actually talked about this on the show yesterday, how the game on Wednesday looked a lot like the games from 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
The past couple weeks they've been getting into the lane and the points in the paint have looked better. When they get 56, 58 points in the paint, they usually win those games. And that is the points in the paint is not like a coincidence. It is a real thing and a reason why they win ball games. And to your point, just something funny. I think I was on the show when I was talking about this. I was a show by myself, maybe Tuesday. I don't know what day it was. And I don't remember what game it was, but it was a recent game. It was a situation where it was like Vince Williams Jr., John Conchar, and someone else. And they were like dribbling in the lane and passing it, dribbling in the lane and passing, dribbling in the lane and passing. And it was just over and over again. And I was like, someone's going to have to shoot the ball. Like you can't just keep. And then it was a shot clock violation. Shocker. But yeah, that's something that these guys after like when they're out there, especially when Desmond Bane's out there, like someone has to shoot the ball. Like it can't be Jaren every time. As much as I'd like for it to be, it can't. But I think you're right. It starts with points in the paint. It starts with that, and it starts with rebounding. They have to be, I think that's a challenge, just a size limitation for them, unfortunately. But they have to be better team rebounders right now when they're so limited on the front court, because Jaren, while they ask him to play help defense and block shots, that usually means he's out of position to get rebounds. That's the problem. And that's their style of defense. He is the help defender that blocks shots and wipes everything away. But if you're asking Jaren to do that, then he's not going to be able to rebound the ball. And so someone else has to be there. Would love for Bismack to be able to be better than he has been the last few weeks. He's been very, very pedestrian. He's been very off the couch, like, if you will. I'd love for him to be better. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think that's something. Those two things I think is where it starts for the Grizzlies: points in the paint and rebounding, and that's was their detriment the other night.
Well, yeah, you look at the rebounding. You're talking about Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, both having 10 rebounds, and then you add in a bench guy and Tari Eason with 14. Like that's 34 rebounds to your highest players with rebounding was Vince Williams and Jaren with 7. I know it was more of a team rebounding. Like that's what the Grizzlies have been because they don't have Steve-O. And Jaren isn't the greatest rebounder, but you got to figure something out. That isn't it. And so I'm hoping that tonight is a better job of, like you said, Biz being the rebounder, being that force inside, because that's all he has to do. Just stay in front of Alperen Sengun, let him do what he does, and just keep him off the boards. It's simple.
Yeah. I mean, then again, they have to figure out a way to get they have to figure out a way to, if Bismack Biyombo is not going to be that guy to team rebound, for the wings to get in there. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, because if they, the wings are Zaire Williams and Jake Larabia, and then I don't know if there is an answer. And that has been a real bad. I mean, Wednesday night you saw several possessions where they were getting 2, 3, and then like 4 offensive rebounds in one possession. I mean, that just cannot happen. I mean, you get killed when you have that many. Eventually, NBA teams, any NBA team, if you give them 3 possessions in a row, they're going to score eventually.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to just never score the ball. And no NBA team is that bad. And so the Grizzlies, again, to your other point, they have to figure out a way to get inside. I mean, when they are getting into the paint and then shooting the 3-point ball, I mean, I think that is when they're the best. And then the other side, defensively, they have to figure out how to stay attached to shooters. Not figure it out. I talked about this on the show yesterday. The helping so far to the paint, and someone tweeted this at BCM Grizzlies on a Twitter account, is that's a feature, not a bug. And I was like, that's a perfect way to put it, because it's true. Yeah. We've seen this for several years. The helping that far into the paint off of shooters one pass away is a feature and not a bug of Taylor Jenkins' system. Unfortunately, it's like a real shitty feature, and it sucks.
It's the worst feature film.
It is the worst feature about his defensive scheme. But we saw that several times the other night. It was one pass in rhythm 3, and that's how they got a lot of open threes. I mean, that's not that they scored a lot of threes. I think they only had like 12
of 32, which isn't, that's a good percentage. On that helping. I've always termed the phrase more show and less go, which means like you just show that you're there, which maybe, deters them from driving, and less of completely over helping and being there to actually give the help. But for you guys, I will say, watch. They all play the same style of defense because they're in the same exact defensive scheme with Jenkins and staff. But if you watch Vince Williams, he will have one foot in the paint and he will look like he's acting like he's going, and rarely does he ever leave his guy and go. But if you watch two other guys, and they're all pretty much all the same age, and Zaire Williams and David Roddy, they do similar things, but they're a little bit deeper into the paint, and they always go, and there's never a show. And so if you see that, if you always see whose guy is wide open, it's usually those two. You can add Jake LaRavia, but I hope we don't see him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and that's to your point. I mean, they are. It is different before. It makes it incredibly difficult to return and get back to your man. Impossible almost. Yeah, to get back to your man and close out at a reasonable rate. And like you said, Vince Williams Jr. has been a amazing. Just kind of find, because he was, if you think about it, he didn't even start the season, really in rotation. So he's been a blessing. He's been very good. And I like David Roddy, but like I've said all along, is David Roddy's should be playing 30 minutes. David Roddy's a 10-minute guy, developing, kind of like that's his stage right now, and he's just being thrust into something that he can't do. But I think overall, I think he's an actual NBA player. Whereas like unfortunately, I don't think Jake LaRavia is an actual NBA player, and unfortunately, I think Zaire Williams is just, he's had opportunities and he can't do it. I mean, and that sucks, but he's had plenty of opportunity to show that he's a real NBA player and has yet to do so. And again, Jake LaRavia, I don't think was never a fan of him even when they drafted him. Like I saw him in summer league, and I was like, dude, this guy is struggling in summer league. We got real problems. This dude, he's so slow. He's like standing in molasses all the time.
I know you said he's barely even, and probably not an NBA player. Well, he was barely even a high school player, only starting to really play and get minutes in his junior season. Barely a college player. He was okay in college. He showed glimpses. The same exact thing is happening. Like, he never developed. He never got better. He is so slow. He's slower than Kenny, which is
slow. Yeah. It's slow. That's a great finesse right there by Jake LaRavia. Shout out to him, actually. Great finesse to get drafted by the Grizzlies. Like, if you can get a couple $1 million and do nothing, shout out to you, baby.
Great interviewer.
Great. And what he was always building, he's built as a 3-point shooter, and that motherfucker can't hit a shot. He threw it up. What did they say? Threw it so hard off the backboard the other night. He was gonna break the backboard.
Scaring the kids, baby.
So hopefully, I think if we see Jake LaRavia tonight, we are in a world of hurt. I think that was, and I talked about this on the show yesterday. The fourth quarter lineup, I thought, was there was like a Jacob Gillard and Derrick Rose is out there, and Zaire and I mean, I think that lineup. I think that was on Taylor Jenkins to ride that lineup for that long was a mistake. I don't know why we didn't see Santi there. I don't know why. Even to be clear, I don't even know why we didn't see X. When he's a proven NBA player, why would you see like a Jaren X Santi lineup on a big, especially when you're struggling with the boards like that in the fourth quarter? why on earth you didn't go to like a big heavy lineup with, X Santi and Jaren on the front court was beyond me. And I don't know if X was hurt, but it didn't seem like that. It just was a DNPCD, and that I thought was a mistake by Jenkins. Now I don't want to say that cost him the game. No. Getting down by 20 cost him the game,
right?
But it certainly didn't give them any opportunity to come back when quite frankly Houston was giving them every chance to do it.
Yeah. Well, Tillman is a guy that Jenkins likes, so.
Yeah.
With that being said, I think that there's something else there. There's no way he doesn't go to. He went to Jake LaRavia, okay? He went to Jacob Gilliard, and he likes X more than both of those dudes. I think there's something there. It could be because of the 15th is coming, as in today, where people are more eligible to trade. I think that could be. I think it could be health. It could be whatever. I wouldn't think it's anything crazy where he's just not good enough, even though last game he sucked. I think Jenkins gives these dudes a long leash, and X has proven himself enough and helped Jenkins and his staff enough. I think he would have played him. There's something else there. There's no reason he just is a DMP easy.
And I tend to think the same thing. He's played too much over the years and he's a proven NBA player,
right?
To just sit on the bench when you again need rebounding and need big. So I tend to agree with you. I think there's something there that we just didn't know about, and maybe just went to go to the game and maybe in warmups just couldn't go and figure that out. I don't know, but who knows? Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. On the other side, we'll talk about, should you boo Dillon Brooks? Is that acceptable in the NBA? Boo. We'll be right back.